Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Nelson.
You know, it's taken me a long time, but have you noticed as we go through, I can actually make her laugh now just by saying, "Hi, I'm..."
I'm laughing at you, not with you.
Okay. Well, that's always important.
It's better than nothing.
You see, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I am an only child.
Yes.
And any attention is good attention.
Yes.
So
we know.
And once again, for our fans out there that think I laugh at my own jokes too much, I just want to let you know I'm going to continue to laugh at my own jokes too much. And I'm going to laugh at Deborah's jokes too much. And it's a free country, and I'll laugh at my jokes anytime I want to. And I don't care what you think about it.
I don't joke around.
Our Pensacola News Journal had an editorial recently.
Guest editorial.
A guest editorial, right? You know, one thing that I notice, it seems that with an election every 2 years in the House of Representatives, it seems that people show up in the election year, but the rest of the time I can't find them anywhere.
Anybody in particular?
It's just an odd occurrence. You know, like the groundhog, for example.
Yes.
You know, I know he must be there somewhere.
Right.
Because they're able to find him every year, you know, on February the 1st. I know he exists. Because that man in the goofy hat pulls the...
Right.
Pulls the, you know, the groundhog out, and there he is. But the rest of the year, yeah, Punxsutawney Phil. The rest of the year, I never hear anything from Punxsutawney Phil.
He's minding his own business as subterranean groundhog world.
Guest editorial, ladies and gentlemen, Pensacola News Journal. Representative Jeff Miller. Crist has nothing to be proud of. Well, it kind of the whole apparently issue with Jeff Miller is that Governor Crist accepted stimulus funds, and because of that, he spent almost a page and a half ripping the current governor of the state of Florida. I've just always kind of thought that maybe you should have some accomplishments that you're proud of before you start ripping somebody else for you think that they should be ashamed of this in some reason. And just a couple things I wanted to point out. You know, I'm just the kind of fellow that I observe things, you know. I'm also the kind of fella who has a long memory about stuff. I'm also the kind of fella that has a very detailed file at my house, and I keep track of things. Because sometimes people act one way today, and just a short time ago they were acting completely different, you know. And
politics has a strange effect on you.
Well, it does, you know, and I would just like to point out that Mr. Jeff Miller, until about 6 to 8 months ago, every time I saw Charlie Crist, I couldn't tell where Charlie Crist began and Jeff Miller ended. You know, Jeff Miller was in the photos with Charlie Crist. Jeff Miller was at the, you know, it just seemed odd to me that all of a sudden in an election year we come out with such a caustic message. And I think, you know, folks, Deborah and I, Deborah has a pretty good memory too, and also has a, well, I won't say organized. She says she knows where everything's at, but she keeps track of a lot of things too.
It's all up here.
So let's talk about something that Representative Miller did one time. Let's talk about CAFTA.
One of his policy votes.
One of his policy votes.
CAFTA is the Central American Free Trade Agreement.
Right.
I call it the sequel to NAFTA.
Exactly. And ladies and gentlemen, you know, just to refresh your memory, actually I don't think we need to refresh the memory of our viewers, but I think they're all very aware that NAFTA and CAFTA, free trade agreements with foreign countries that give away the rights of the citizens are bad things. And
Yes.
you know, I think Ross Perot had it right a long time ago.
Ross Perot called it pretty accurately.
Yeah, I mean,
with the giant sucking sound.
right. You know, you can say what you want to about Ross Perot, but he is a pretty good businessman, and he predicted at that time when they were first discussing NAFTA that it would be a gigantic sucking sound, that our jobs would go away from here.
Well, here's the other thing that really disturbs me about NAFTA and CAFTA, and a lot of people don't know this, is there's a clause in there where corporations, international usually, but corporations in general, can sue a foreign government if they pass a policy that quote unquote costs them profits. They can actually sue them for what they would claim to be the lost profits.
Right.
For example, if Santa Rosa County passed a policy that said you can't, mine something.
Right.
Say we had gold,
Right.
something in the ground here that somebody wanted to mine, and say there was a Mexican corporation who owned some property here, couldn't mine it, they could actually sue our government.
Sue us for the profits.
Right. For
Right.
protecting, you know,
Right.
our local community from the destructive effects of mining. And a lot of people don't know that's in there. I mean, that's actually a foreign company can sue your policy making, your local government, state, whoever,
Right.
government, for a policy decision they make to protect the citizens and the interests of the citizens.
Well,
And our leaders signed those rights away
right.
for American citizens.
Well, you know, look, you know, the one world order gang,
Yes,
where you know the European Union
Right.
is all in place now. Now they're over here, and they want us from the tip of South America all the way to Alaska. They want us to be a trading union, and I just believe in the good old sovereignty of the United States of America, and I'm very happy. I hope that we trade with people that want to trade with us and trade fairly. But I am not for giving away the rights, the sovereign rights of the citizens, the legal citizens of of the United States of America, giving those sovereign rights over to foreign nations.
Right.
I just think it's nuts.
Well,
I think it's treasonous, to be quite honest with you.
Well, I would tend to agree with that, and there's also the question of our right to impose a tariff on goods that unfairly compete with American-made products. I mean, if you've got slaves, and we're talking about slavery in Central America, if you've got, or even, of course, we know it happens in China, it happens overseas. If you've got slaves producing products for pennies on the dollar, it's going to pull jobs away from the United States, and the way to prevent that is to impose tariffs.
Right.
And if you don't do that, you know, that's a kind of a de facto support of the slavery that's going on.
Right. You know, you mentioned a word. I want to take just a short trip. Tariffs. You realize that the intention of our founding fathers was to pay for the operation of the government that we needed from tariffs.
Yes.
No taxation of the people, that only monies collected from the tariffs of goods would fund the operation of our government. They believed that we needed such a small amount of government that a few pennies off of each good that came into the U.S. would be enough to meet our needs, to take care of the militia or the army of the time, and enough government to oversee.
Well, and they also greatly mistrusted what at the time were the global corporations like the East India Company.
Right.
They greatly mistrusted them.
Right.
And their motives, and they were right.
So, and another thing, while we're on the CAFTA issue, because to be quite honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, we've tried to engage Representative Miller on the CAFTA issue.
I have spoken to him. I spoke to him in 2005, and I asked him about CAFTA, and he said that he was originally against it, but that he thought that it would help improve border security.